Kinley King, my man Garland Nixon, and my girl Kelly Davidson. We had a wonderful show talking about politics and all that good stuff, and now is when we get down and dirty. Oh, speaking of dirty, look at these filthy little cupcakes.
Don't want to.
Got to give a shout out to Cup Love. So we are still celebrating, but we are going to talk about a couple of things that we did not get to touch on during the actual show. What do you guys think about celebrities and entertainers and things of that nature using their platforms to be activists and even to endorse political candidates? And so I just want to kind of give you a couple of names that I want to throw out there. Of course, you got to look at Kim and Kanye. Of course, we have to look at Colin Kaepernick. You have to look at LeBron. We got to look at Lil Wayne, 50 Cent, and Ice Cube. What do you guys think about that? Should celebrities just shut the fuck up?
No. They're human beings.
Okay.
They just happen to have a larger platform than everyone else. I just don't think they should be deemed leaders and the voice of our communities.
Mm-hmm.
One of my good friends from boarding school was Barack Obama's social secretary. And so when he brought like Rick Ross and all those hip hop artists to the White House, she kind of told me about it on the low because they knew what the optics would look like. You know, like especially for Black people who are educated and all. Why are you bringing rappers? And I get that, but he brought them there because he knew the influence they have.
Yes.
Regardless of what, their thoughts and ideas. And I know that you can go back and influence millions of people. So you wanted to hear their voices, but also allow them to ask him questions and all that kind of stuff. I think they should. They're human. They should talk, but they are not the voice of our community. They're not our community leaders.
Mm-hmm. How do we neutralize that? Because
they need to say it. I still they need to say it. You need to know that you're just Ice Cube. That you are speaking for. You don't get to go do the platinum plan. You don't get to go. You're not qualified to do that, sir.
Some people are called and others just get up and go. And he just got up and went. I was
I'm taking the other side. I 100% support Ice Cube. Let me tell you why.
As what?
100%.
Having a voice or being a leader of our community?
Not as a leader. I'll put it like this. I 100% support what he said. I don't care who it came from. Let me explain why. Ice Cube said, we ain't getting nothing for our vote. Nothing.
Agree with that.
It's about time we ask for something. And I thought, finally, I'm hearing a Black man say that.
But why did he decide to get with some people or whatever and create this platinum plan that he couldn't even articulate and then go and speak to the president of the United States to negotiate on the behalf of Black people? Who the fuck are you?
Okay, so here's what happened. He does it. And the parties contacted him. He didn't call them. The Democratic Party contacts him, and he says, all right, you want to talk? And they say, we'll talk to you after the election. Okay.
Which makes sense.
Okay.
No, it came back that he was offered a Zoom call with Kamala, and then he turned it down.
And he didn't want to get on it because there were other rappers on the call.
And he didn't want to
he felt like he deserved.
He didn't get the shine.
So we talked to him. He talked to him.
He should sit down with them.
Here's the way I feel. I am happy to hear that. I think Black folks have been making a mistake by not asking for something. And people said it was the wrong time. And I said, we've been here for 400 years. If this ain't the wrong time, when are we ever going to have a time? The right time, in my opinion, is right now.
He wasn't the person to do it. Did you see him on Roland Martin looking like the male version of Helen Keller? He was stuck on stupid.
I'm glad
he was like, how do you create a plan? How do you negotiate a plan that you cannot even articulate? And here is a contradiction of T.I., okay? Because back when Kanye West and like all those people were having meetings with Donald Trump or whatever, he was like, you are a rapper. You don't go in there alone. You go in
with
there with someone like John Lewis or somebody who can speak on our behalf.
Exactly.
You went in there as Ice Cube.
With the homies.
But John Lewis wasn't doing it. Jim Clyburn wasn't doing it. Who's going to do it? The people that should do it is collecting a paycheck, sitting on their hand. Somebody finally walked up and said, John Lewis is a congressman. I love him, respect him, I've met him. But to say, he's not telling y'all to ask for something for your vote. I wouldn't care if a homeless person did it. It was
there are so many activists out there that are doing the work.
He sat with Dr. Claude Anderson. So here to his defense, he did sit with Dr. Claude Anderson, who is someone who's always told us we need our own party, and so I appreciated that he did try to do that. I just felt like he should have had a team and brought that qualified team with him.
Yes.
But here's the thing. I agree with you that he said that. Yes, give us something. Be vocal about that.
But don't you be the one going to negotiate?
When they asked him, What about black women? What
He didn't
y'all want
care.
now?
He didn't
That's
care.
what he said.
That's exactly what
So
he
that's
said.
why he can't speak on behalf of us, because black men often do not speak on behalf of black people. They speak on behalf of black men.
I
And that
heard this
intersection
quote.
is important.
So what if you kill who did it, and you say, let's just talk about what he did, because the issue is
It's
who's
not-
doing it.
But it
Somebody
wasn't done
needs to do it.
right. But it wasn't
No,
done
somebody needs to do
Do
it.
it
At least
properly.
But nobody's doing it at all.
Do it
Everything's not going to
properly.
be done right.
It's not going to be
Right.
right.
Here's,
So we're
here's,
critiquing it.
Here's-
It don't have to be
Who
done
is
right,
doing
but
it?
it don't have to be raggedy.
here's what,
Once
here-
again, he was raggedy.
here's what I said when it happened, and I left it at that, and I haven't really discussed this since, is that Ice Cube did what Ice Cube does,
Mhm.
right? As a creative person,
Alpha
if you think about who he is as a human being, right? He's done. I mean, as a rapper, he's a phenomenal rapper. He's got a
Phenomenal
classic album,
rapper.
right? He worked his way into film without any formal training or study, basically just kind of shadowing John Singleton and learned how to do film, right? And so he's a person who just sees something and does it. So Ice Cube did what Ice Cube does. The Democratic Party did what the Democratic Party does. They were dismissive, were marginalized, like, okay, yeah, we hear you talking, we'll holler at you later. Republicans did what Republicans do. And so nobody was out of character in how
And how
they
they
move.
responded.
It's just how we respond to it, because we see our brother or our kin doing something where he's vulnerable and he gets clipped. Because Republicans have been co-opting black people since the dawn of time. So,
Okay.
so this is not no new shit on their part. And Donald Trump in particular has never come up with an original idea that didn't benefit him directly. So the fact is that he's always looked outside of himself and outside of the idiot cronies around him to find ideas that he could toss out as fodder. And Ice Cube happened to have one of those ideas, and not knowing what you were up against in that situation,
Which is
which
why
you have
he
to
should've
own
shut
him
the fuck
not
up.
know. Yeah, but you can't
Which is
know.
why he should've
You
shut up.
can't know
Oh, I
shut
like
the
that.
fuck
This
up
is my thing.
without knowing.
You don't think to some degree that he didn't know you're dealing with that big machine that he needed to be more prepared?
Yes, come on now. This is my thing. Just because everybody was in character doesn't mean everybody was right. And you earlier said your issue with Candace Owens is that you're causing harm. My issue with Ice Cube is what you did at the time that you did it caused harm.
I don't think it
Yes,
caused
it did.
I don't think it
Yes,
caused
it did.
I think it upset people, but
But
I don't
it
think
could've.
I don't
One
think it
person
caused
But no.
vote differently because of that.
No, not
Can
at
I
all.
tell you something?
And
I'm
Men
embarrassed to
have
say it. I'm embarrassed to say it. My nephew, okay? My nephew literally after 50 Cent came out and said something about him supporting Trump, my nephew did a status update on Facebook about y'all need to support Trump, da, 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 da. And I read that and lost my shit. My entire family lost our shit, and like the entire family got in his ass publicly in the comments, like, what are you doing? Don't be led astray or whatever. So
Right,
like, don't think that these people don't have influence. So Ice Cube doing what he did could have been interpreted a certain way. Like, we're intelligent. Everybody's not intelligent. You know what I'm saying? And it's
What
like,
about Kanye?
Kanye's
Kanye.
mentally ill. I give him a.
Kanye
I believe he's
did
mentally ill.
damage.
He took
Yeah.
votes.
I believe he's mentally
And
ill.
I feel like when Ice Cube and Lil Wayne and 50 Cent all came, that chorus, a lot of people were started to put them all together.
Yes,
And
they
that's
did.
what drove support towards
Yes,
But
they
Kanye.
see,
did.
that's the burden of
Luckily,
being
he heard
black
us.
too.
Yeah.
Is that we don't have the option of nuance, right? Like that's not a lane that we have that people just accept. We can fight for it, we can argue it. You know what I mean? And we're having a nuanced conversation here right now, and I think some people will appreciate it. But some people will just look and say, "Oh, it's 4 black people talking. They must be all saying the same shit."
Right.
And so,
and
like,
they
that's
rappers,
so
whatever.
we're not afforded the complexity that some of our
And that's why understanding
lighter
that
counterparts are.
in a public sphere, you need to be more responsible. I
Oh,
might
yeah,
talk a
that's
certain
happening.
way when it's just us or whatever, but like when I'm out in the world understanding what I represent, I have a responsibility. And like
Power.
he just got up and went with a damn plan. Like he couldn't even articulate it.
What
But
I want
he's
to know
not.
better is
But he's
true.
saying
We
it's so
have to take
strong.
them. We have
Yeah.
to take them to task.
We do have to
and
take
we
them to
have
task.
to do it in a way that we doing like, oh, you could just vote. You can't be quiet about it. You gotta. So I just feel like I'm in the middle on that. Like I agree with you. Like somebody had to say it.
I agree with the
Right.
point.
But
I disagree
I
with
People
the
have been
point.
saying this since the Reagan era, make no mistake. It just hasn't been.
Execution was regular.
It hasn't lifted up
Execution
to
was
a
bragging.
national conversation the way it did. And granted, it was the 11th hour, like, you know what I mean? So there's timing.
Poor ass
So,
timing.
and so, as someone who is very much engaged on a day-to-day basis in politics and the news of the day and understands, hey, if you do this, then this will happen, or you know what I mean? Like, we can kind of see the chess moves. I understand somebody who can't see that, but being impassioned and saying, look, and nobody's doing this, nobody's saying this, and I have this platform, and if I don't do it, that's a very real, kind of feeling that I can relate to, because it does kind of help quell that feeling of helplessness when you're like, okay, you know what, I'm not just going to sit around and talk about this with the homies. I'm going to put this on paper. I'm going to, you know what I mean?
I ain't feeling
And
it,
people
and he
just-
did it wrong.
So what do you think we
The
follow
people-
up with? What do you think we follow
Here's
up
the question: do people just say, "Oh, that was stupid," and just walk away? Oh,
Exactly.
or do people say, "Okay, I'm gonna criticize legitimate criticism, but now let's be honest about that. We need to do this. Let's move forward," because the system wants to. Oh, wait a minute. The Negro said they want something.
And we quieted him.
Just
We
wants
quieted him
right.
to something
So
we did as black
does
people.
the system win, or does black people win in the long term? Okay, that happened in the short term. Biden won anyway. In the long term, do black people start to wake up enough to say
We need to.
we have a not
We
just
need
a,
to.
we have a right, we have a duty to ourselves to say, look, y'all got to do something for us.
Yeah,
There's
and
an
I
example-
agree with
perfect
that.
example.
If we're
I agree with
Here's the
that.
most perfect example. People use the word voter suppression, but it's not voter suppression. It's voter theft. If somebody takes your car and drives off, they didn't suppress it.
Right.
They stole
They
it.
just
And
stole
so
it.
the question is, because I don't know if you're familiar with Greg Palast. He's done a lot of work on the whole voter suppression issue. He has movie out, books, and everything. But one of the things that he's done a lot of work with Stacey Abrams. One of the things that Greg Palast complains so hard about is he goes to the leadership of the Democratic Party and says, "Y'all the ones losing.
Yeah.
Get on board with me," and they won't do it.
Because
so
they
there's
have
they
a
are
vested interest
comfortable.
in
well, there's a
not
whole
just
lot more
comfortable.
to it.
They're not just comfortable. The Democratic Party has a vested interest, in as much as the Republicans do, to maintain their control over the system at large, right? So there are third parties grooming and brewing in both parties, right? We talked about the Tea Party earlier and the Republican Party, and obviously the Democrats have a reckoning with the progressives. Like, that is something they're going to have to deal with. They're not really ready to have that conversation, and there is a war between moderate or conservative or whatever the fuck they want to be called Democrats who are diet Republicans who also don't want to be left out in the cold. And I don't say that to say white people. I mean that they're
they're
the
the
Jim Clyburns and they're
Hurricane.
you got the status quo, black folks, white folks, and all of the above, and the Latino electorate is a whole other story.
Cuba.
You have those in the Democratic Party that are splintered and faction and I won't say confused because that's offensive, but
Yeah.
they are figuring themselves out. You have that in the Republican Party, and what the Republicans decided to do when they saw the onslaught of the Tea Party was say, well, we're already in the minority. We're not going to let this go to shit. We're going to use this to our advantage. Whereas the Democrats are Heisman, and they've been in that Heisman stance since because the party has grown as an apparatus. The party has grown economically, and so they have taken advantage of that fact, and they will continue to until they are stopped.
Let's talk about being politically unequally yoked. Could you
No.
be in a romantic relationship with somebody whose politics are almost diametrically opposed to yours?
No, I can't even be friends with you. I deleted a cousin on Facebook. So I was like, we related? You crazy lady? This got rid of her.
You
Like,
crazy
you right.
lady?
And then her mother came on, her mother inboxed me. I was like, no, Titi, no. Because my mother's Puerto Rican.
Right.
So in that 23% of Puerto Ricans, some of them were my relatives.
Of course.
And I'm just baffled because, so Taino Indians are, from my maternal side, that's where they come from. And so my grandmother's never seen herself as a person of color.
That's obviously
My grandfather, we think he's Afro-Latino, but so we're not 100% sure, but we know where she's from. And so my whole life growing up, even my mother, when you said you had that spectrum of color, the darkest person in my family, my mother's light skin and all that kind of stuff, and my mother was like, I have black kids, but I'm not me.
black, yeah.
And so I would not I would not deal with you. I won't break bread with you. I won't date you, and you will not be my friend.
I've never had a problem with that. I've had a lot of friends that are, I'm left. I'm
We.
I'm off the door somewhere on that. And I've had a lot of friends that are conservatives, and I don't know, I guess as far as a relationship,
Can you sleep with? Can you wake up every morning?
And honey,
Yo,
will be quiet.
let me tell you something.
This is
Let
right
me tell you something. Holly Berry could be a Trump voter with a mega hat. I'm not turning that down, brother. I'm not turning that. So the answer.
Pussy over
Is that long
politics.
term? Is that
Shout out
long
to her,
term?
He basically said pussy
Oh,
over
man.
politics. That's what he said,
Yeah,
y'all.
well, I don't want to embarrass myself.
Shout out to homie Dan Hunt for like that down.
Drop me.
I was shocked when I saw that.
To me, it's like if you're voting for someone who would harm people, that's problematic for me. That's more than saying like, all Mexicans eat taco versus all Mexicans should go back to, across the
Yeah,
border.
yeah,
There's
that's
a
a
line
problem
for me. There's a line.
You?
I mean, as far as the yoke part, that's dicey.
I hate that. I hate that.
That's dicey. I mean, like my moral compass is pretty broad. Like I'm uninhibited. I allow a lot of shit. But if you're talking crazy, like nah, that's not that part. Because I don't really back down from challenges enough to be able to even acquiesce with you. So like, how do we even, you know what I mean? Like you gotta have if you're gonna argue, you gotta have an entry and an exit. And if we can't have an entry and an exit, like it's just constant at that point. So I don't know how the yoke part would work. But as far as the intimate side of it, that's gotta be, when you go home, you gotta be home.
A safe
You know what I
space.
mean? Yeah, like you gotta.
I appreciate diversity in everything I do, but I lead with love. And I draw the line at someone not operating in love. I may cuss you out, I may be a little rough around the edges by choice, but when someone's politics move into racism and xenophobia and homophobia, hard stop.
Right.
Hard stop. I can't go there. We have nothing in common. And I can't imagine investing any time in you. I can't imagine sharing my body with you, intertwining spirits with someone that would promote hatred. Like the thought of it makes me a little nauseous.
I gotta throw something out at you. I like old cars. I was at an old car show
I like
a
old
month
cars
or two
too.
ago, right? Old cars are cool. And there was a guy sitting there with a really neat old car that I liked, and he had his mask on and it said Trump. I went over there, I liked the car, and I asked him to come, and sat there and talked to the guy. We didn't talk politics, we talked about cars and the different cars around. I had a fantastic time talking to him. And I thought to myself, he's got a Trump mask on. I bet there's a lot of people thinking, there's a black guy talking to a guy who's a Trump supporter. What in the world up with that? But I
talk to
enjoy
Trump supporters every day.
Dick Cheney
He
was
worked like a nice guy.
one of my favorite people. I started working in oil and gas when I was very young. He was at Halliburton. I'm very young in real life. I've just been on this earth for a long time. But he was at Halliburton then. The chairman of our company is one of his best friends. I've watched his kids. I've talked to his wife, his daughters. I love Dick Cheney. When he ran with Bush, my head exploded. So I totally get that you can relate on a certain level.
Policies,
Yeah, but I can't date you.
But when policy moves over to
To
hatred
pay for someone else.
and
I can't do it. So having that conversation, I get that. It's not a sense. For my cousin, she believes him, she supports him. We don't have anything, we're done there. But could I have a conversation with a Trumper? Yes. Could I, get along and work with? Absolutely. But to build
We
with
have
them,
to
to invest in them,
right.
I couldn't do
I
that.
couldn't do that either.
2 seconds after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, the trope became her relationship with Antonin Scalia, and like, I get why people want to do that and show that contrast or whatever, and I also get the people in that relationship, right? Because the Supreme Court is a very isolated environment.
Right.
So
They're a
like,
team.
how the fuck are you going to go to work every day and not develop some kind of bond?
And the final question. Your political top 3, meaning political figures or politicians. Name them. I don't like anybody. But it doesn't have to be a politician.
AOC,
Okay.
Nina, out of Ohio. Her last name is escaping
Turner.
me.
Nina
Turner, out of Ohio. And I like Angela also Brooks. Really local.
Okay,
Easy
Easy
County.
County.
County, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Love
I like her too.
Angela. Love Angela. So that's my top 3.
Yeah.
Okay, Well, I mean, I'm gonna leave the Obamas out of this because that's too low hanging fruit at this point. But the thing I love about
Well,
Michelle,
damn. Maybe I was gonna say Barack Obama.
well, no, I'm not taking that away from anybody else. I'm just saying the thing I love about Michelle Obama is that I don't think that she would have a problem at all with me giving her spot to Stacey Abrams. I love that humility about her, and she's just a wonderful human being. And I think she transcends politics. So I'm going to say Stacey Abrams won. Number two, a little bit of a departure. Michael Steele is one of my favorite people. Like, I love that dude. And you know, politically, you know, he says the things that I be screaming at the TV that like nobody can hear me in my house, but he'll say them, you know, on camera. And that's been for 20 plus years. Elizabeth Warren, who I think is going to be, if the Democrats get out of their own fucking way, she's going to be the person that can save the Democratic Party from itself.
She makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So I guess I only really got two because I can't think of a third, which is weird. Number one would be Nina Turner. I'm a big Nina Turner fan. Number two for me would be Bernie Sanders because I'm a big Bernie Sanders fan.
Okay.
So I'm Nina and Bernie.
Yeah, that's a squad.
I like it.
I want Bernie to go sit down.
I'm a big Bernie fan.
I like Bernie.
That's just my opinion.
I was riding with him originally when everything was going on. So I kind of just did the Democratic thing and went with whoever they chose. But I was a Bernie fan.
Okay. I like studying people who are in the past because you can like really do a comprehensive look at them. Shirley Chisholm,
Of course.
my girl. Of course, Malcolm X, and I gotta take it to DC. Marion motherfucking Barry. Like, he was so revolutionary and he meant so much to so many people, and not like Marion Barry of his latter years.
He did work.
You know what I'm saying? But he really did the work. He really cared about people. He took care of children. He took care of the elderly. And what I really love, he made more black millionaires than any politician, like any city politician ever. He got those black people those contracts, and he didn't play with the money.
That was advocacy in the office. And
Yeah, it was.
For me,
Yeah,
to
it
me,
was.
like when shout out to Kimberly Hughes. He's like,
I know Kimberly.
you know, that's like his.
I was
came up
in
under
the
him.
Marion Barry's Youth Leadership Institute as a program assistant. So
Kimberly
like,
came up under him, and to see how wonderful he is and the work that he's doing, and that's where I got the first real inside glimpse into what Marion Barry did. Because you know,
he was a real deal.
He was.
You know, here's the thing about Marion Barry that I thought was the most important. I have a friend of mine who was very, very close to us. He never enriched himself.
That's what I said. He never played with
He could have gotten filthy
Yes.
rich
Yes.
when he, like towards the end, he was still living in Ward 80.
And the same apartment.
And then
I'm from Ward.
his
Yeah.
friends would stop by.
His campaign when he first ran for like Ward 8 council.
Yep.
Prior to
Yes.
man, it was on Elmira Street and South Calhoun
Yep.
Street. It used to be, I think it used to be a Chinese carryout. Then they turned it into something. Man, that office was raggedy. I was working over an open pot of red beans and rice, but I was working for Marion Barry. You hear me? And he won. And we gotta go because we are still taking up time, and we gotta go. Love you guys. That's a wrap. After party.